How is everybody? Hi, Graham. Still going to do a little bit of drawing on this one. So it's the same design over all three. Maybe the new airbrush yet, Graham? Oh, you are trying it. Cool. It'd be interesting to see how you find a new one versus your old one. So I've just sprayed the liquid mask. And I have now well, it's the 9th today, isn't it? So I've used a whole bottle since the 16th of April. So it nearly lasted a month. But I run mine neat. I don't thin mine at all. But I do keep the old bottles, so I will find a use for them eventually. I've got a box behind on a shelf up there, and I think that's now five. I've got 7 bottles that are empty. But no, I don't know what I'm ever going to use them for. I just think they're too good to chuck away. Because I've got my eye water, and then I've got my Sparmax. And I know they're two completely different guns, but when you run them on the same tank pressure, the nozzles will give you different PSI. So it'd be interesting to see if you find not, the new iWater, what the difference is between a new one and one that's well bedded in. I would have thought the older one would be well bedded in, and the new one would be a bit tight. So you might find the PSI is out. I'm assuming that as they're well made, there won't be any difference. Probably to run just as well. I think it's more a thing between the two different manufacturers, not. If I had two exactly the same guns, then I could be a bit more sus about it. Right, so They do feel similar. Don't ask me a question. They feel they feel pretty similar. Question mark. Similar to what? That's the sort of stupid thing I'd write. You're supposed to say make yourself feel a ton better about spending all that money on a new gun by saying, "Oh, it's so much better than my old one." Otherwise, it's a bit meh. Not entirely sure it was worth it. But you cleared all those other guns away, so it is worth it. It could be the fact that it's just built right because it's brand new and you've not touched it. Right. So we have. I'm on. Thank you. I did wonder. I questioned the question mark. Otherwise, you were asking me a question, and I was like, "Hey, what?" So we have a zoo racing baby. We have a bitty design. Oh God, I need to get my numbers right now. The bitty design one, wherever it is, and we have a types. And I thought I'd seen the end of the types, but we've got another one. I've only drawn half a headlight so far because I've been running so ragged today. I've only just put the second coat of mask on, so I don't really think much can get done tonight. No, I might talk a lot, but I don't think much is actually going to get done painting wise. I think it's more curing the mask and cutting out. So I don't know if that disappoints people or not. I will try, but I'm not rushing to start spraying. If that makes sense. This might end up being a two-nighter. So like this is part one, and then part two is tomorrow. And also look, I'm recycling old gloves. They smell lovely. I'm burning through so many sets, sorry pairs, that it makes sense to try and reuse them when I can. I've got another pair up here. It's only me been wearing them, so there's nothing gross. Just paint. Oh, I'm still very jealous, Graham, that you've now got. I actually have two Iwatas, but they, they did an Iwata with a side cut, um, with, and it meant I don't know what the term is. Just put this. You could put it in either side, and it was still an eclipse, but it was an eclipse something else, and it is evil. I mean, literally nothing comes out of it. It's so thin, so it was only really good for chrome. So what I did is I took all the innards out and made one super brush. And I thought, oh, I don't know what I'll do. I'll just buy a new body and then put all the innards I've got in a fresh body. So then I have two Iwatas. No, 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 no. That works out in just as much money as buying, and you might as well just buy a new brush. The SBS? Kind of. I think it's the Eclipse BS. But anyway, there is no benefit to buying the body on its own and making your own with old brushes because they want over £100 just for the main part, that bit. Then all this bit and all this bit and this bit and all their running bits are separate. So I didn't think £100 was good enough value, so I haven't done it. So subsequently, I have all the parts for a second Eclipse. What I do is I keep it all in a bag. That way, then I can't muddle up. But it's still very easy to stab yourself with the needle or bend the needle. So you have to be very careful. So I keep those all separate. For some reason, I have this real aversion to the tail part. I don't like them on the gun. I take them off. Anyone else do that, or is it just me being weird? Because with the uh, Sparmax, you actually have a nut adjuster, so you can spin it in and out to adjust how much the trigger moves. So it's basically adds a stop point, so the needle will only come back so far. So I really like that, but it does make the brush a lot. I mean, okay, talking grams, but I don't like it. I don't like it puts the weight at the rear of the brush. I also find I can get a bit more when I'm in sort of on the inside of a shell. I can without knocking into the mask. Does that make sense? I don't know. You do, so it's not just me then, and because you're like a much better painter than me, professional, as some would say, although I've been called that today. Um, I don't like. I prefer it with off. So that's good. That means we're on the same page there. That's good. I still, I mean, I ran this the other night and it wasn't running 100%. And it's not an amusement. I wonder if it's still. It's still right. I find it's a bit more. I find it a bit more nosy without the rear bit on it, and I prefer it. I feel like there's better. There's a better. Although you can catch yourself on that, so be careful. So, I mean, in a perfect world, I'd have two Iwatas, but it doesn't work like that because it's money and stuff, isn't it? Or sorry, it's a lack of money. There's no lack of want because I'd quite like two the same. That way, then you haven't got to bounce between two different brands for spares. Not that you need many spares to be fair. It's always nice to be able to carry a spare needle if you have a grey moment and drop your brush. Hello, Tim Tims. Hello, Nigel. How are we all? I've been doing actually something vaguely useful today. I mowed. I got up. I mowed the lawn, and then I started. I was putting the lawnmower back, and I saw the shed paint or, or fence panel paint, whatever you want to call it. And I thought, oh. And then for some reason, I painted baby shed, and then started on some fence panels, which is really annoying because I used the entire pot of paint, and I've done three fence panels, and I now have a further five to do on that run. And then I counted the other side, because obviously it's got a match, and the other side, there are 14. So that's going to be a fun couple of weeks. I don't know if my forehead is looking particularly red, or my thoughts about, but I've been out in the sun today. And to get around the fact of, like, oh, I'll start it and I might finish it in a week or two, I just did three panels in the middle. So now I've got to do either two panels either side. So I kind of forced myself into that one. But I didn't ask my wife um, if she liked the colour, which was really quite silly. And luckily, I got away with it. Oh, do you know that'd be a really good idea? I should have thought of that, Graham. But the thing is that I have to run around with my compressor and I'll be spraying. I'll be filling it up every 5 seconds. I don't know if it's thin enough to get through. And to be honest, it's quite nice to actually have a hold a paintbrush. Although I've got most of it on my arm, so I'm going to have a biodegrades wash when I go indoors. That's all green shed paint. But I put up on my thing, on my socials earlier, saying, "Oh, I'm painting the baby shed next to the world headquarters." Someone's come up with a new phrase, which I said I am going to nick it because I thought it was really good. So I can take no credit for this, but I'm changing it from world headquarters to world shed quarters. And I was just like, that's brilliant. I really like that as an idea. I'm going to nick it, but I shall give you the credit. So it's now called World Shed Quarters. That made me laugh as I was reading it. So as it's been vaguely sunny today, the first coat dried really quickly in the sun, but I kind of got sidetracked into doing like parenting and stuff, and I didn't remember to put the second coat on. So the sun's gone in, so now I have to hairdryer it. Hi, John. What's a sad face for? You don't like shed quarters? It's brilliant. This is what I went. Okay, this makes my life a ton easier. Right? I painted for this dude before, and for these three shells are all the same. And he gave me a proper picture of his past works for me to do my version of. So I've still got the picture from last time. And last time I painted this was the 30th of August. So, hello, Study. I've got that cellophane up on the wall opposite me, so I can stare at it longingly, going, I need to make it as good as that, if not my version. Been in any cold rooms today? Hi, Colin. So now I've got people now talking to me from the other socials because I'm not watching this through Facebook or I'm streaming this through YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I need a haircut. How rude! I think both my hairlines are brilliant. I've got one hairline that starts there, and then one that starts there. It's been at least a week since I had it cut. Oh, did anyone see Tristram, Mr. Schumacher man, do his egg cut for charity? I saw it this morning, and I will have to donate. He literally he Bic razored his head and took off his beard, and his beard is double length of mine and way cooler, and no silver bits in it. Well, those are life lessons, the silver bits. Um, yeah, so he's got literally So I messaged him. I went, you now have the new struggle, which is called sunlight isn't your friend unless you got to wear a hat basically. So he's not read it yet because he's like proper busy and stuff. Um, he literally he Bic razored his head. I mean that's which means second from the left. There's only one on that side. What do you mean my nose hair? I actually don't mind being bald. That probably sounds a bit odd compared to some people, but I remember when I was growing up, I had reasonably wavy hair, and then you know that thing that happens to teenage boys, and voice drops and other things drop. My hair went curly overnight, and not a little bit curly. I'm talking afro comb. It looked like I had a bunch of pubes on my head, and it literally you couldn't do anything with it. So I remember being at school and looking at the only time I really paid attention to the science teacher was because he had this really, really weird balding head, and he had this huge tuft on the front, and then nothing, and then a second hairline. So you had this bit there's like a coastal erosion where this bit there was still solid, and then nothing, and then a second hairline. And I thought, I'm sure that's going to happen to me. And so far, it hasn't. Well, it kind of has because I've kind of lost it all there. Anyway, enough about hair and lack of. So I don't actually mind. I just suffer with a cold head, so I put a hat on. So this has had 2 coats of liquid mask. I'm going to concentrate on one, get this dry, and hopefully the other 2 will air dry a little bit rather than sort of wasting energy and trying to air dry all 3 at once and then wait ages while I cut. So I thought I'd show you the sort of process of doing multiple shells. It's the same as doing one, it just takes 3 times as long. The actual paint process is the actual fastest bit. But when everyone says, "Well, how long did that take to paint?" and you go, "Well, okay, 4 hours." And they go, "Oh, that's not too bad." And then you go, "Well, yeah, but I spent an hour cleaning it, 2 hours drawing it, and an hour um, cutting the mask." Um, so that's 7 hours. That's sort of 7 hours a shelf, roughly. How is everyone? What's everyone been doing in this lovely weather? I mean, obviously not racing because that wouldn't be allowed. Hello again. Um, there's supposed to be a relaxing tomorrow, according to the news. I stopped listening to the news because it just kind of repeats itself constantly. But apparently there is some sort of relaxing. That's supposed to be a sphincter relaxing. Um, Be interested to see what they actually relax and what comes out of said relaxed scenario. I still can't see anything realistic happening for because in reality, so this is going to get political, and I probably really shouldn't. But for the us to go back to work, the schools need to open. Otherwise, childcare. Do you see what I mean? You can't do that without doing this, and you can't go back to work unless the kids are at school, because otherwise you've got to look after the kids. So at the moment, looking after the kids is kind of a full-time job. And I must admit, I'm getting quite fed up of looking after my parents' grandchildren. So for anything meaningful to happen, the kids need to go back, and I don't think it's right for the kids to go back to school yet. You try and explain to a 5 and 8-year-old that you can see all your friends, but you've got to stay 2 meters away from them. See, I think John, I think that's up in Scotland, isn't it? Uh, uh, I think that the your Scottish Prime Minister lady person has been quite correct there. I don't see my children going back to school till September after the summer holidays are finished. Um, I think Boris is stuck in a position that he says anything, and then Scotland and Ireland and Wales all either berate him or he's in a really weird position where he can't really win. And then there's a lot of, I mean, unfortunately, there's still a lot of point scoring going on. So I suppose everyone has an angle, don't they? It's just knowing what the angle is. But, I think September is more realistic. What is the point of doing all of this to then rush out and then get sick anyway? There's still, if they think it is a very difficult situation, it's like, well, do they well, only 500 people a day are dying. We can open garden centres. It's like, well, why? Why is that deemed socially acceptable that 500 is a fine number? I know that you then put it into the grand scheme of things. If you look at, not that it's probably a very fun thing to look up. If you look up births and deaths of like a couple of years ago, and you look at how many died to how many were born, it's kind of a loop, and it just depends where you are on that loop. And it would be interesting to see if this COVID thing has actually sped up this loop. I don't know. I'm talking about stuff that I really probably shouldn't. You want to watch paint dry? Hello, Jimmy. Hi, David. Oh, Jimmy, do you know if window tint is allowed for the BRCA? This is a discussion that got started last night when I sprayed, because I did is the shell I had, I sprayed the windows nearly solid because I thought the neon would dry clearer, and it hasn't. So I scraped a lot of it off. But I just wondered to what extreme is it? Have you got to be able to? Did I remember correctly? You said to me you have to be able to see the belts, or have you got to be able to see the lipos? Or Chris, hello. I was meant to message you. We'll speak soon. Don't worry. I apologise. I forgot. I didn't message you back. I've got to make sure, Chris, that I have enough masking sheets. These sheets I use, I've only got one pack of 5 left. Now, if I've only got 5 left, then unfortunately I won't be sending anything out. But if I can get some more, I've just got to double check that where I get it from can still do it. Otherwise, I don't want to give away I'm not giving it away, but I'm not. It's more valuable to me for me to use rather than making a pound and selling it on. Does that make sense? So yeah, I've got your tweezers and everything's all ready to go. I just got to work out what's what. Hello, Joe. Hello, Ian. How is everyone? And I should be getting a better webcam hopefully next week, which will mean that the Facebook, which a lot of you are watching on now, will stay 720p. Whereas if you then come over to either YouTube or Twitch, depending on which one you prefer to go to, you'll be able to watch it in HD. So all this at the moment in Facebook, I know this looks really clean and tidy. I mean, look, there's barely any bottles, there's no brushes, there's no tissues. This will all be in HD, which will be really cool to see, won't it? So I don't know if HD will do me any favours. I mean, we better see my bald spot in HD. Bald spots. The spots if it's in HD. Because what I'm doing at the moment is I'm streaming through a site called Restream, which then restreams it to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. But I then get all the comments down here from all the sites at once. So I get one stream of comments. So it'll come up different colours depending on where it's come from. So anyone that's watching on Facebook, if I start randomly talking to somebody else, I am talking to myself, but I am talking to somebody on a different platform. Although, so it's a bit unfair that you can't see everyone's mess, because I do get a lot of Facebook, but then I am starting to get a lot through Twitch. I mean, if I had my own way, I'd have you all watching me through YouTube, because the definition's better. And I find YouTube's a bit more, what's the word? How do I say this without hearing really? I don't think many people have really heard of Twitch. You see all these sim racers and computer game people that do Twitch, but there's not really many people that do this. Whereas on YouTube, I've started following a couple of artists. That's the term they want to use. And I've been very opinionated about what I've seen, because I don't really think much of it. Is that something you can do for me, Colin? Because so Twitch is fairly big to anyone in the gaming community. Yes, but this isn't. I wouldn't actually class this as gaming. This is me talking bollocks and watching paint dry. I don't think an IT guy would be able to sort out the comments that they show. I don't know. They might be able to. I've probably not done something correct. You got to remember that I've figured this out. I just don't know if painting is the right thing for Twitch. Well, Colin, if you are able to help me out or know somebody else, then that would be appreciated. Appreciated. Joe, are you still watching? If you're watching, can you say hello? I'm not going to start talking. And David, if you're still there. Maritime crew. I know a lot of people just sort of literally log in, oh, not him again, and turn straight off again. And it means it comes up saying you're actually watching and you're not. But Facebook definitely gets me the most people watching. Sorry, Chris has just messaged me. Right, so Chris, what I was going to say is that I can sort this all out for you. That's fine, but I only have 5 sheets of this. So if I can get some more, I'll order some more and then I'll send you one. But if I can't get any more because they're not sending it out, then I can't send you this until I get some more, because this is more valuable to me than just making £1 and sending it on to you. That makes sense. There's no money in this for me. I'm just trying to help you out. I can't help you out if I'm going to massively screw myself, if that makes sense. But if everything goes according to plan, then yeah, I should be able to send it out to you. But I just need to find out. I need to ask a question. It's an eBay account I get it from. It works out roughly £1 a sheet. Yeah, you're correct, Colin. I've been on Facebook now for 7 years. I've only streamed on Facebook for the last few months. It's like the last stream I did on Facebook. Well, no, it comes up. This is what I don't understand, right? This restream thing here gives you stats at the end of the stream, and it tells you who's watched and blah, 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 blah. And you're looking at it, and it'll go like Facebook, and it'll go 12 people. You go on Facebook and you look at the stats that they give you, and it'll say 200 people have watched. So I don't know if Facebook have been massaging my ego massively, or if Stream read the stats different. No, Chris, it shouldn't be, as I said, it shouldn't be a problem. I just need to ask a question to make sure I can get some more of it. I'm just being honest and saying that there might be a bit of an issue getting more of it. That's the biggest question I get asked is where I get my sheets from. I'll get it from eBay. Oh, I see, Colin. That makes sense. So they watch it. So it only counts for a certain. So whereas Facebook, if they watch for a second, they class that as a viewer. Whereas Restream would say you've got to watch for a percentage, which would make much more sense. Because if I see if I can find it on here, because it will tell me. I'll go to my Basil page. I will prove this. I'm not actually Billy BSing. Come on. God, I put some bollocks on here. Okay, this wasn't actually a video, but this was last night's one. The post I put up. So that's what I put up. The picture, the car, right? If you can see that, I don't know if the camera will allow me. There in blue, it says 726 people. I can just about make that out. So that's a low number as well. I normally am a lot higher than that. Right, those ones I put up. Hang on. These are just pictures. I know these aren't videos. That's 1,229. This video, this is more realistic. 645, and that's a low one. Oh, my hands just moved. Jimmy's ones from the other night. It's got me over 2,000. It's about 600 views. So roughly, Facebook says it's about 600 views per stream. No, this one here, 1,155. See my bald spot in the picture. Good evening, right, this is another dude on or dudette on Twitch. Lazy J Gray. Good, Nigel, because I've been buying it as sheets of 5, and I'll only buy a certain brand now because I really like it. Hello, John. So now I know you're not a lady. It's good to know, just so I can figure it out. Nigel, so 10 sheets of A4 for £7. That's good value. Did it? The problem I had is I was buying it on a roll because old Cipollina gave me a link to buy it off a roll, and it was a lot cheaper. But you then had to cut it into your own sheets, which isn't a problem because I've got cutters and I've got a cutter and stuff. Use my work one. guillotine. But it then was massively rolled up, so it took ages to flatten out with some weights on it, and I couldn't get it to stick. I don't know if it was the fact that it's been rolled up funny, or it just didn't. It just didn't feel as tacky as the other stuff. So I've gone back to the other one because the other one's sealed up as well, and I just wonder if it's got a better tack to it because it's sealed in 5 sheets. I'd much rather buy it in 5 sheets and know it works than buy a roll that's twice the value, but it doesn't stick. Can I ask a question, John, on Twitch? Do I know you, or do we know each other, or are you a new person? So that's not a microphone, that is actually a hairdryer. Yeah, I don't know why I did that. I'm just trying to work out if it's people coming over from Facebook to watch me on from Facebook over to Twitch. Nigel, can you send me a linky over for that so I can have a look? Because if it's the same place I got it from last time, I won't touch it. But if it is, then I will. Then I will. Oh, come off, Ashley. Yeah. Yes. Hello, John. Hello, Nellis. I'm assuming that got lost in translation slightly. Are you drinking beer? Did you say, John? Yes. Hopefully, once I get my new webcam, you'll be able to see all this in HD. So this will be like so much better. Designs are going to be better. They won't. The content will be better. It won't. The microphone will be clearer. I'll just be louder. It's 100% better, apparently. I doubt it. But I could just get a sheet of white cardboard, Ashley, on YouTube. Maybe I should say people's names and then add where they're from, just so that the ones on Facebook can see that I'm not talking to thin air. I used to, Nellis. I used to drink. I used to drink beer and paint. You could tell what's what side of the shell I was doing by how many beers I'd had, or, or, or the quality of the shell. But obviously, I've been teetotal now for so 17 months. I've had a proper beer for, unless you count last year's Clubman's at uh, Brooklands, where I had 3 beers. I definitely wouldn't cut a shell out with a beer. But actually, that's shocking if it's 20 to 9 and you've only had 2 beers. Oh, sorry, no, 2 hours teetotal. Are you finding your opening in a beer at lunchtime? I so would have done that. in my dark days. I used to like kid myself. Oh yeah, 1 o'clock's fine. On a weekend, obviously, not on a weekday. Yeah, do you remember Ashley? We went out for I can't remember what we had now. I had a half a chicken and some meat of some description. And I remember we had 3 beers, and then we brought some beers back to the hotel room, and I watched you prep my car while I sat and drank beer. Hello, Loinsy, on Twitch. How are we? He wants me to caress the shell. Oh, I should have brought your shell home. Damn it, it's at work. So this is number 36 of lockdown, and his shell 104. He says, not very convincingly. I'm sure it's 104. I made a mental note of it, and now I've forgotten what I said. So, oh, the sky is playing up, which is useful. God. Anyone else listen to Radio 1 now and go, oh dear? Sounds like not. Well, I know the stuff I listen to is pretty crap, but that's terrible. That's a nice comment there. So nice looking design, and then a winky face with a tongue out. So I'm assuming that's Adam. Hello, Adam. Loinsy, what have you sent me pictures of? What is that? I can't see on the screen what that actually is. I'll have to have a look at those later. I don't really know what that is you just sent me. I'm not used to picture messages on Twitch. Let's find some music to put on too. I've deep dived into YouTube. Has anyone watched a thing called Grind Hard Plumbing Company? Uh, as long as that's helpful and not sort of some sort of weird trolling, then that's wicked. Thank you, Brian. So I've been following some dudes on YouTube called Hard Grind Plumbing, and you've seen the video where some dude put a motorbike engine into a Barbie kid's toy car, and then they go around and do wheelie burnouts and stuff. Well, they've got more adult now, um, and they're now putting snowmobile, get the right phrase, motorbikes into and then 4-wheel drive systems on these things. They're insane. Still technically a go kart, but with 4-wheel drive and goes up and down hills. Yes, Brian. It's It's nuts. It does some serious miles an hour. But they've got this new one. Have you seen it? Where it's just test. I don't know if I'm a couple of episodes behind. They've just got it. It's just got a reverse gear sorted out for it. It's like that's nuts. It just looks like instant pain.
And I was actually trying to play here with Christian in May, but then this happened even earlier. And so yeah, I was very happy when the request came.
That won't get me into trouble with YouTube. That's good. Right. So now you can see that it's. So there's the difference between one that I've sort of cured and one that I haven't. If I leave it a bit longer, this would go absolutely transparent, with a pink hue to it. Colin, is this something I can do while I'm online now? In your Restream chat window, right, where's that? So the Restream chat, right, yeah. Click setup or settings. So if I do, I only just realised that I was given this laptop a couple of weeks ago. It's touchscreen. Well, this might be above my pay grade of brain cells. So Restream chat. Click the settings. Where's the settings? Settings. That's not that. That's not that, because those are the actual cameras. Disable camera. No, that's not ideal. If I do turn off by accident, I do apologise. No, I don't want to leave. Very tight. Technical hint. Technical screw up. I pressed the wrong button, which is pretty standard for me. Right, so having screwed up my stream by pressing the wrong button, I'm back. Right, so actually to do something now rather than just keep procrastinating all night. Oh, it spins wicked. Right, so first job when the mask is dry enough is always a fresh blade. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set myself a little thing. I'm only going to do one of these. I'm only going to cut one out tonight. And then what I'll do is I'll cut the rest tomorrow. And then when I come back on tomorrow night, I should be able to paint rather than just talk about it. And what have I done with my... Ah, there we are. So I'm going to take that off because I was wearing that to do my mask. It means I can put these bad boys back on. Now I have a thermometer here and it's 22 degrees in here and that's with no heating. Hey Chris, Nigel. Right, so first thing of always when I start a new shell is change the blade. So the old one goes away and that knocks everything over. I use Swan Morton. There's quite a lot of different blades. I like number 11s. Now a number 11 has got a much longer shallower face to it. You can get like number 10s which are much stubbier, but I don't like those. So it turns out that Colin's just told me on Twitch that I've just had the biggest ratings of Twitch followers I've had to date. So 6 people were watching me, and I pressed the wrong button and cancelled it. So go me. I mean, just said that I don't think it's working because it doesn't seem to be particularly there for airbrushing. Right, so all I do is I draw the design and then I use a thick pen for when I want to do pinstripe. I have a permanent marker that does a thick point and a thin point. So that's the thick end and that's the thin end. And what I do for pinstripe is I cut, so I'll show on the outside. I draw a line either side of the permanent marker. So I have to go, everything I have to do it twice to do pinstripe. And I just cut either side of the permanent marker. And then in theory, that gives me a uniform line. And yet again, it must be subminimal. It's not subminimal. Subconscious. I always do this window first. So I always have the nose towards me, and then when I go down that side of the shell, just for some reason I always start on this side, and it's nothing I actually mean to do. I can definitely feel I've been in the sunshine too much today. Feeling a bit tired. So I'm doing my new thing of double window frames. So it says Facebook, I've got 9 people watching, which is nice. So I'm doing you do the overall window, and then you know where you've got like the bar. So trying to explain this. So and then I'm doing that as a pinstripe and that as a pinstripe. So when it's finished, I haven't got one here to show you. Damn. I had one the other night to show what I was getting at. You'll see what I mean. But that's doing my new thing at the moment. Is I'm doing like a secondary pin. I might not be able to do it on the Type S shell, because they don't really give you enough window frame space anyway. Blade pressure is a... Hello, Rodrigo. Blade pressure is something you have to learn as well. It's just a case of just putting the blade on, and you'll feel when you're pushing too hard. Also hold the shell up so that it doesn't... You can't really push through it, because like you've then got like your arm as a shock absorber. Because if you push too hard, then the shell will flex out the way, and it doesn't. It should give you like a double protection of not being to cut too hard. So that's those two done, and I always keep my pinky on the shell. It's another way of also making sure you don't put too much pressure on, because you keep your pinky on there. You're not putting all your weight through the the sharp point. And it means it glides a bit better. Wow, Australia. Hello, Terry. Good morning from Australia. It's 9 o'clock in the evening here. So is it Saturday or is it Sunday morning? I'm assuming you're ahead, aren't you? Is that how it works? Because normally when the on New Year's Eve, it's Australia that always goes first, like mid-afternoon. I just think you just like a party, so you go in mid-afternoon, or is it technically? So is it technically Sunday for you there? Oh, I could be mildly racist. Good day. There you go. There you are. All my years of watching Home and Away and Neighbours. That's cool. So I've had my two messages today from 6 a.m. on Sunday morning. Wow. So so Australia and South Africa are that I've messages from today. So that's pretty cool. And then Medway. It's good to see the shells these days. So this is the German firm. A zoo German. Sorry, Europe. Let's just say European. That probably gets me out of all sorts of trouble. And that's their take on because all they're doing is they're making their versions of their touring cars, which are German touring cars. So a UK version of a touring car is, if anyone is of my age, it's a Vauxhall Cavalier or a Volvo estate car or a Renault Laguna. So for the Europeans, the German touring cars, that is a touring car, whereas for us, it looks like a space-framed GT3 car. I would like a more traditional style touring car shell. Actually, no, it looks like something that actually could go down the road with 5 mil ride height. And like this new breed of fronty cars, they're getting a bit of character into those, but they are all hatchbacks. Now I know it's a thing because was it Ford came out and said that they're not going to make traditional cars anymore. You know, like with a boot and a saloon. That's it. And they're going to make everything as hatchbacks now. But I'd love a front-wheel drive like Vauxhall Cavalier. If you think about it, when it was olden time touring car RC cars, they were all based on front-wheel drive cars. The shells were. So in theory, they weren't. Is it the word grammatically correct? So the Cavalier in the touring cars was front-wheel drive, but in RC cars it's four-wheel drive. So, but now you look at it, and all the shells they're making for fronty, they're basing on cars that are front-wheel drive. I mean, take for instance here, I've got one of the Blitz MK9s. So that's a front-wheel drive Honda. But I don't understand why they can't do a saloon. I know that's faster because the rear wing's going to be way higher up, and it'll handle better. But I don't know. You know, if they came out with a class that was like modern day touring car, like technology, the innards and batteries and everything else, but with the retro body shells, you couldn't run a shell that was older than or newer than X amount of years. I'd run that. I'd actually give up the performance of the body shell to make it look more like a touring car. I know that's probably going to make me look like a right weirdo, but I think it would be quite cool if we had a class that looked a bit more like it should. Were you going on about Loinsy? It said it looks good to see the shells these days. The beginning was very entertaining. Do you mean the beginning of this feed was very entertaining, or you meant touring cars back in olden times was very entertaining? Sorry, I've been going off on some weird tangent, and I don't know what you're actually referring to. So pinky on the shell. And then just drag your blade either side of the permanent marker line. So basically, you just do, rather than do one cut, you're doing 4 cuts. Sorry, 2 cuts. So going around the shell once, you have to go around it twice. And this is why I've got my glasses on. Now this bit was way easier when I had a light source behind me, because I could just hold the shell up and then see where the cut lines were, because I've now put my light above up here. I can't really see my cut lines as clearly as I used to. Oh, I see what you mean. You mean like because you would have remembered my proper leopard print. I've actually still got one. I've got a new one that I've done. Well, not new, but I call them now my bad taste shells. Do you remember when I was called handbags for about 2 years at Maritime? I turned up for a meeting. I think it was very, very unfair. I turned up to a meeting and I'd painted a leopard print and pink body shell. It was very, very tasteful. Very classy. It wasn't. But it literally got me known. And I've been doing it again because I just liked the reaction I got. And there's another painter. It was a good nickname, wasn't it? Handbags. So this is quite an old shell. So this is what I was going on about. This was told to me by Chris Betts to use window tint, no, headlight tint from cars. Just put it on the inside, but it adds a ton of weight to the shell. But it gives a really cool. If you get all the air bubbles out, see the air bubbles are in it now because it's really old. You see that's there's a nice tasteful shell. And I've matte sprayed this as well. I've matte sprayed. If you see the leopard print bit is matte, and then the pearl is gloss. You see the shine. And this weighed about a ton because it's got all the window tint in it, and it's got the overspray. The matte spray on it. My cat's just wandered in. All right, come and say hello, Pickles. All right, this is Pickles. This is my cat. She won't look up. Oh, all right. Smart ass. Just been scratching at the door. She weighs the same as a small horse. She's just scratching the door to say hello. Yeah, she'll just meow for a bit, and if you wonder why there's a meowing noise, it's the cat. So this used to amuse me greatly. Obviously, you can see I've only used it once. To be fair, this had lasted me an indoor season, so it had a good couple of runs. I then lent it to Mr. Studdy, who took it round West London. Actually, not took it round West London. He took it in West London, as in like everything he could hit. And I was cool with it. You letting him use it. I just didn't think he was going to smash it that much. Right. So I've done that bit. I'm going to do the outer frame. Actually, Brian, I had a timeline thing come up of you driving around Maritime this morning with old Barry as well. Come up on my timeline. I cried a little bit. I was watching you go around and I'm like, yeah, I'm good enough to beat you now. Yeah, there was no grip. You could see that where you were. I was like, oh, blimey, he's hitting the throttle a bit hard. Then I remembered, it's after a track relay. So now I'm doing the pinstripe for the roof section. And the same process again, because this will be chrome. Yeah, so where, Brian, when was the last time you picked up a handset and actually drove a car? So if you notice, what I'm doing is I'm not doing it in one complete movement. I'm doing one side of the pinstripe all the way round, but I'm not trying to break my wrist in half by trying to do a complete all in one, because you just can't follow it round completely without putting too much pressure on, or it looking natural. You want to get a nice curve. So it's 2017, wasn't it? So if you haven't driven a car since 2017, I still reckon you'd beat me, but I'd be a lot closer. Old David Rees now has started racing again at the Slippy Floor Club. I must have mentioned it. And he's turned up there, and after a meeting or two, the local hotshot's gone, I want his motor checked. I think he's cheating. I was like, no, you don't know, David. You don't know how good David is and how lazy David is. Dude's just got thumbs. And he was proved to be completely legal, which was expected. And the local hotshot hasn't been back since, because David lapped him with vastly inferior gear as well. So it was quite funny. David keeps challenging me, and I'm like, oh no, I'm busy that week, I'm cutting my hair, I can't. Yeah, it's practice, isn't it? It's like anything, the more you do it, the faster you are. And there were some proper bandits at Maritime that were just quicker than other clubs I've been to. It's still the case. It's how I gauge people as well. I'm like, oh, you're like a Loins, or you're a Vaness, or a Broad, or a Reese. You can sort of gauge where people are. I'm more like a what was Savo's surname? Gravac? I'm like the loud one now that doesn't actually really do very well. the best I've managed to date now is I've won a C final at EWS. So what's that? Put me 21st out of 60 odd, and I was super proud with that. So, and this is still quite a relatively straightforward design, but the best ones always are. But it's just getting it to look right. I've spent a lot of time finessing my drawing of the shells, because you can paint. Once you get painting to a certain level, it's relatively straightforward. It's the cutting and the designing that I think gets massively overlooked. So all these weird roof folds. Trying to do it in one motion is just not worth it. So you just do it in bits to build over the cuts. It's easier on one side than the other because you can't get into it as close and it's all mucking around. But it's the flow of the way. Obviously, this has been designed by somebody else, so I just have to sort of follow other people's. I mean, I call it their handwriting because the way they've drawn it. You look at the way someone's drawn a shell, and you try and do your take on it, and you won't have the same flow. That's a word. I remember talking to Gav Graphics, saying I admired his flow. He was like, "What do you mean?" I went, "It's got a nice balance to it. It all flows nicely. It wanders around rather than looking." I remember when I first did a body shell, and you try and do like a nice point like here, and you draw it, and it looks like a fucking Toblerone. It's like, it's like, oh my god, how can I not? It doesn't seem to at all register of what I've just tried to do. And it's like the one of the biggest things to doing like finishing on the points for these, right? As you're doing your cut, when you're coming to finish, don't stop there. Go past, and then when you come this side, don't stop there. Come past as well, and you get you don't even realise you're doing it. You're elongating the cut, or do that with a permanent marker. So when you draw when you come to finish your point, don't just draw up to it and then do that, because that looks like a Toblerone. If you draw up to it and then draw past, and then draw back down the same line, then come out, it looks completely different. That took me a long time to learn that. Just to get it to flow nicely. If that makes sense at all. And where this baby shell has got this bonnet, like a fold or crease or something to get the strength across the front, it just means you've got to be so much more careful when you're trying to carry a pinstripe through it. also coming through to a post hole as well. Be super light with the blade. You literally just want to just run the over. If you think how thin liquid mask is, you really need no pressure at all to cut through it. If you took a craft knife and tried to like run over a bit of paper, and literally you push, and in theory it should fold, but it's just learning how thin you can get away with your cut. Right, Ash. Yeah, I left the door open so the cat could get out. Probably gone to chase it. I shall close the outside noises. Normally I have the radio on so bangingly loud you can't hear anything, which is probably better than me rabbiting on. Hi, Paul. That explains why the cat was going so nuts. Probably thought the bird was in here. See that? I've been out in here painting a body shell, and I've heard those noises at 4 in the morning when the birds start singing. And then I've gone to bed and got up again at 7 to go to work. It's like an eye bleeder of a night. Literally 3 hours sleep. That was to get a shell to my German friend. If I move the camera a bit, you can still see. If I do that, that's better because I'm not stretching too much. Right, with this shell, Paul, we are doing, because I actually have. Oh, I've got 3 of these to do. They're 3 different models. So I've got a Type S, a baby, and a bitty design shell. And I've got to do that. It's my take on that. This was the picture I was. This has been the second time I've done these sets of drawings, these shells for Adam. Ooh, there's a headlight. It's still tacky as well. That's why I use. Those my window masks for the. That's my headlight masks. You see, it depends, Brian. So I've got messages from Twitch and from Facebook. At the moment, it's the twist. If I say for me personally, then it sort of limits what trouble I'm going to get into. So I would say it's a twister. So they seem to be the most aggressive. But then again, I quite like a DBX. So I've got a DBX up here actually, and this one's painted so you can see all the lines. So this is my go-to. This is what I would go to. This is called a DBX. This transformed, because Brian hasn't raced for 3 years. This transformed the market. You've got these bonnet fins. It's got rear fins as well, and it was tons lower than a Type S or a others, because the Type S sort of wipes the Speed 6 off the market, and this is what's changed everything up massively. But there was the I've got the up here. Where is it? first of all, we had the racer. And this is my tester shell. So that's the racer. So that's what all of a sudden was the shell of the month. And then we then put the racer against the DBX, and there's, how can I do this? Can you see the difference in material between door frame to skirt? And then on this one, I mean, there's like 3 times the amount, well, at least a 15 mil difference in, and this one is just, and they recessed the bonnet as well, so the bonnet came down around the wheel arches. This one didn't as much, so obviously then got the bonnet lower on this one, and they just got everything just a little bit lower. Well, centre of gravity, isn't it? Cog. So I miss these tire racers, but I don't miss this skirt here. This used to drive me nuts because I'm literally having to cut either side of this all the way down the shell on both sides, and it used to drive me absolutely, because it's a really thick, pronounced skirt line. So it's obviously for strength, because obviously it goes a bit weak without it, and it had nothing else on the bonnet or anything, but it had those, and it just made it really hard to cut down the side of the shell, whereas the DBX has it, but it's not as thick. Sorry, this upsets my camera when I get too close. So there's a sort of, so that wiped most of the shells away, and then this, and then you're then stuck with this now. This, if you put the twister and the DBX together, there's literally no difference, but there are differences obviously, because otherwise that wouldn't be allowed. So it's got these weird little wing points, horns either side. So the wing, obviously, when it flexes, catches those, turns more load down into the shell. But also, if you put a twister inside a DBX, it fits really, really well. If you try and put a DBX inside a twister, it won't fit, because the DBX is just ever so slightly bit too big. So they've made the twister shorter. So that's a perfect example that they don't fit. That's as far as you can get it without really damaging it. So for all intents and purposes, they look identical, but they're not. They are completely different, but they look the same. But if you're giving me either one of these to cut and paint, then I'd go that all day long. The quality of the Lexan is 20 times better. I don't know if you can see in this because the camera's not that good. Might be when I'm HD, but can you see all the little pits? The Lexan is not great. Lights and grills on these are horrific. They're like little dots. There's no definition in there. It's almost like they've cast it. Whereas you look at the DBX, and it's a nice sharp, all the headlights are nice and sharp. It's got some nice recesses for the grills. So, and also that they put an overspray on these, which is this is the same style of shell. This is the same manufacturer, and the so I'm prattling on here. I hope this is actually useful. And these are all my own findings. This is not me sort of having a mild dick because I'm sponsored by any of these. None of these lot sponsor me, and I can say entirely my opinion. if you put a baby shell against what's the better one to do? Right, against the Type S. The Type S, I've had to literally, I've taken the shell out of the bag and I've drawn on that. With the Type S, I've had to wash the outside of the shell. I've had to put brake cleaner on it, on the outside, just to get my permanent marker to stick. So then I've had to make sure I double clean the inside as well, because I think, my personal opinion, there is something on the Lexan outside and in that the bloody stuff doesn't want to stick to. So that's why I've only drawn half, as I gave up, because I just, my permanent marker keeps, it kills, these kill permanent markers. I don't know if you can see there, I was having to double draw the lines because they just won't, they keep rubbing off. Whereas you then look at they have a slightly satin finish on the overspray. It's overspray, it's not anything important, it's just overspray. And the overspray sheet on the zoos is better. So I can just go draw, done, fine. Whereas the protoform, I've got to give it a lot more effort to get it to otherwise you just talk of the devil. Hello, Savo. Loinsy, Savo's just popped up on the Facebook Messenger. Savo, I'm talking to Loinsy, but he's on the Twitch, because I'm posting between three different mediums. So I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Right, I'll carry on then. So I just went off on some massive tangent. Just from one little line of a. I know, that's it. I started talking and wallop, boom. How are we, Sav? So that side's done. That is just a blue line. So I can do that. I do find it cool that everyone sort of pops up and says hello. It does make it much more interesting. I'm actually at work. I've got on one of the last maritime meetings, there was a maritime banner on the scrutineering bay, and I might have borrowed it. And I've got this I might have this in my workshop at work. And I was thinking about putting it on my shed somewhere. So there's a little bit of I managed to get it out into my hauler and downstairs without anyone noticing it in the last meeting. You might have a section of carpet and the raceway sign off the wall as you entered the rostrum. You might have that. That would have been quite crafty if you might have picked that up. It's nice to know that I might not have been the only person that might have helped them take some stuff out. I think it might have been a bit too much if I tried to take my pit table. So I got sidetracked when I was talking there. I've actually gone to the wrong side of the shell. I always do one side then the other. Just realised I've jumped sides, which gives me a false hope. Thought I'd almost finished it. That's if he did take some of it. Now, one of the questions I get asked a lot is it alright to pre-mount the holes and cut the arches out? And I say, yeah, doesn't matter to me in the slightest. It means that I have to put less paint on it, and I have to go to less hassle, because I then don't have to cut out the holes so that you can see where you've got to cut your wheels out. Although I would say that Adam's cut these out with a bit of a butter knife, and you might need to do a bit more of an effort on the once it's all cut out to give them a bit more of a smoothness. So if you watch what I do is I do one side, both points, out and inner. Try and match the other one, and then I then go from the other side and then in theory that should give me a uniform cut. If I get the light right, I can see all my cut lines as well. It's actually quite nice, actually. I can see a lot more than I thought. So that's all right. See, I move the shell more than I do my knife. Also, it means that for the design as well, I can. Oh, you're trying to defend your circles now? It was those EWSs I used. Yeah, they're all right. I've got a pair of them. These aren't the EWS ones, but they're almost identical, except these ones actually cut. Yeah, I would put a bit of sandpaper around that after it's finished, because you want them to be dead smooth. Otherwise, if you've got, and this is one that Savo told me, is if that's got loads of pits in it, then if you take a hit, it will split up one of those pits. So you'll make your shell last twice as long by sanding that smooth. I mean, like dead smooth. I mean, literally you want to run your finger around it and the feel wants to be like almost you can't feel anything. Whereas at the moment that feels like a bag of spanners. If you get some of the pre-cut shells, you still need to do the same as well. You just need to give it a little bit of tickling with a bit of sandpaper. But be careful to do it at a certain angle so you don't scratch the paint off. But your shells will last twice as long if you get your arches nice and smooth. There, I've just given you a top tip to make your shells last longer rather than getting me to paint more for you. If you think about it, Adam, if that sorry, this is on Twitch, by the way. So if they're nice and smooth, it'll give you less chance of the arches cracking. and the pressure will move through the shell differently, and it won't split there. Oh, you don't drive that bad. I think I've seen. Have I raced with you? I know we've been at the same meetings. I know you've been down as low down as me. Did you beat me though? That's a stupid question. Most people do. Or they just drive through me like someone does normally. Then comes to apologise and just rips the shit out of my paint. Right, so that's the pinstripe done for the bonnet and that side. No, he says that. I mean, I haven't actually done it all. Lorenzo, you would have found it amusing. Sabo came to watch an EWS meeting, and he gave me a compliment for my painting, said how much I've improved. I mean, I was pretty terrible. I'm a little bit better now. And he's like, "Oh yeah, look, you've improved." And then someone walked past and they had one of my T-shirts on, and he was like, "What? Hang on, that dude's got a T-shirt on with your name on it." I was like, "Yeah, I know." And then he looked round and there was 3 or 4 people wearing my T-shirts. I was like, "Yeah, I pay them." Right, I've got this crazy check pattern to do in a second. I thought I'd just show you the process on one of these shells tonight. I've spoken way too much. always make sure your crossed lines, your cut lines cross, especially on the outer. So you always know when you pull the liquid mask away, it pulls to a point and it's never going to rip out on the other bits. On the internal side of the crisscross, the pinstripe, you don't really want any of the crisscross to show because it will show up on because the chrome will go into the cut. So you need to learn that less is required on the inside cut, and then more is needed on the outside cut. Right, and then with the checkered flag, it's quite good also to label up where you're going to start. So if you do like a B for black, and then you're just a case of just go B, and then that's going to be white, so that's B, that's white, that's B, B. No, that's white. Oh, dumbass. See, there's me. That'd be proved me all right straight away. So you don't want to screw up your. So that would be B. That would be B. That's white. That's B. That's white. That's B. White. B. 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 White. B. White. B. 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 So you know that when you peel, you know which bits you've got to do. And also, you don't want to now cut into your pinstripe, so you've just done that. So just make sure you finish your points, otherwise your pinstripe will come out in little tiny sections and be really annoying if nothing else. Some people do their cutting in stages. I'm more a case of I'd rather finish it in one go, because I find it's a lot trickier, because the first colour you use is black, so that makes almost all your lines, well, your drawing lines, irrelevant because you can't see them. So it is a personal thing as well. YouTube's blown up again, just when I was getting to a song I liked. So I need to be careful now. I don't play music too loud as to get into trouble with the Facebook police or YouTube police for copyright. I don't suppose it's any different for Twitch, is it? I suppose you still play music, you still get into trouble. Come on, I was enjoying that song. What, Twitch, you can play music as much as you want? If that's the case, boom. Play what you want in the background. Oh, that'd be wicked, because at the moment, if I put anything on too loud, I get an alert will come up on the screen on YouTube. Not on YouTube, on Facebook, and Facebook will say, you play this any louder or no, any longer, we will cut you off. And so you have to turn the music off. Or that's why I try and play dance sets, because they're not as easy for them to figure out what the song is, because it might be mixed up a different way, or there's a live crowd there and it throws off the computer bot. so they can't they can't register it as quick. But I generally, like the other night, obviously, with Facebook, it allowed you 4 hours maximum streaming, and you stream on this, then you get an email, and it'll go, you played a song for 55 seconds that's owned by Sony Warner, or whatever, and it's been muted. I was like, okay, fine. It's all this new language to learn. Stream's just the term for the chat, isn't it? And just talking is. I do find that I found a medium I quite enjoy, because I do like talking, and I don't have any trouble. I mean, I looked the other night, and on the streaming, it gives you a list by list thing. This restream thing here, telling me what my stats are after each video. Well, I didn't do that because I wanted to do that. I like talking and messaging and stuff like that. And it says you have to do a certain amount of hours per month, but it says you have to do 8 hours a month. And I was like, ooh, that's quite a lot. And then realised I've been on for 16 already. So I've done 16 hours in 4 nights of live streaming. So I don't mind it. And I watched one of these, like how to interact with your stream, or how to act and stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm not acting because that's just stupid. I'll just talk normally. And it says, oh, talk normally. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's all right, because I can. I mean, I'm a massive oversharer anyway, so wicked. But I was looking on the things to stream. It was saying, can you describe what you do? And I thought, and there was no thing for watching paint dry. But I know to a lot of people this is just annoying, but for the one time I do actually paint something for you, for whoever's watching this, they do say to me that it's much more interesting watching because it's their own shell. And I don't know if Adam is still there, if this is a bit cooler because it's actually your shell. If you are watching now, I'll have to go, oh damn, I've done that bit wrong. I just have to keep that quiet when I do stuff like that. Not that I do ever. Well, I wish I'd done so to keep my gob shut. I always finish the shell off and go like, have I done that differently? Which is why I like painting. This is why I do so many of them, because I just like, oh, I wonder if I did that. And then the process changes, and you might find a new technique, and it might go a bit quicker, or you might enjoy it a bit more. I've got some dude at the moment who's messaging me, and I told him to practice on old Coca-Cola bottles, plastic bottles. Other drinks are available. And I expected him to cut them open and sort of use the inside, and just dropped my knife. Oh, that was close. Oh. The last time I dropped anything of any note, it was my tweezers, which were like needle sharp, but fortunately my kneecap stopped them hitting the floor, because they were sitting in my knee going twang 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 twang. I was like, oh my god, it literally just dropped. I was like, and it was just twanging like that. I was like, oh my god, that's so sharp. Yeah, so this dude's messaging me pictures at the moment, and it's like he's spraying the outside of bottles, and I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for like 7 years, and I'm still not always happy with my results. It's a practice thing, sadly. finding people that will give you body shells to practice on, because they're very expensive just to practice on. It only takes one screw up, and then the whole shell's like, oh, damn it, I wish I'd done that differently. Hello, Tony. Hello, Tim. Right, so that is one finished. So that's one. Oh, no, hang on. That's not. I lied. Sorry to get everyone's hopes up. I haven't done the lights and the grills, which I normally say to do first, but because I've been talking. And there's no speed awards for this, so do it as quick or as slowly as you feel comfortable. Be mindful that this front cut line you've done here is going to take all the grief. Oh, Joe, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It'd be way worse if I had my face in the shots. You'd be like, ooh. So, just being really careful with these front headlights and grills. This is the front end of the shell that takes the majority of the grief. Because Adam's kind of owned up to it. He says he's as bad a driver as me, so this takes all sorts of punishment. And these BMW style shells have got like this front grille within a grille, so you have to be careful not to do too many cuts. That are too thick. So I was concentrating then. And then the outer cut. You're literally just holding the blade to the liquid mask. Right, and so that now, that's the whole front of the shell, that's the whole shell done now. So that is shell number 1. Number 2. And that is part 2. So I've still got these 2 to do, and I might wait to it's 10 o'clock now, so it's not terribly late. So I could do another one now. I don't know if there's any, if people will actually watch if I carried on. I thought I might cut this short and start again tomorrow night when I was going to paint. What are everyone's thoughts? Can't really start a poll, I don't think. Or can I? No, because I'm watching Facebook on my phone. So I'm watching it here, watching my bald spot. And then I've got it on my laptop. Oh, cool, I've been shared. Mr. Study, what do you mean, bigger on YouTube? What, the camera angle? You wait till I get my better camera, which I've been promised. I can't say where it's coming from because it's a mate's giving it to me. All I know is I'll be able to do it in HD soon. But I think Facebook does limit somewhat. Everything's bigger on. Is it the quality of the sound any better? I noticed the other day I've got up to 40 subscribers on YouTube now, which is nice. So I sound more silky smooth. The picture's better. The picture can't be any better because the camera's still the same. So I assume when the feed, when the camera gets updated, if I had my way and I had to choose, I would like everyone to go to YouTube, but I've built up a community with Facebook, if that's the right term. I don't want to lose it. Hence why I paid for this restream thing. So this thing here, up in the corner of the screen, that cost me something daft, like 14, 15 quid a... Yeah, Tim, at least mine's a spot and not my whole head. HD bald spot, yeah. If I wasn't cool with it, they wouldn't have the angle to see it. I'll be like, oh my god, you can't see that. So I was thinking that because obviously with this lockdown thing, I'm getting way more people watching than, because they're all bored. They're quite happy to watch paint dry. Yeah, there is. I've got the Facebook on my iPad and my iPad on. Sorry, iPad, my laptop and my iPhone on, and you can literally, if I do this on the screen on my, and then I have to wait a minute before it's on the phone. I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, so I think because everyone's bored and got nothing better to do. Thank you, Brian. He just followed me on YouTube. I've got like a captive audience of sorts because no one's got anything better to do. And the one thing I've got is I've still got tons of work. I am slowly running out of materials, so I will have to buy some more paint and whatnot. The one thing I have got at the moment is I've got everybody's shells here that I've painted. So I've got, well, this is number 36, 37 and 38. Only 6 shells have been collected. The dude drove up and collected them. So everything else is here. So not that I'm rushing to get as much done as possible, but it is pretty cool to see the work. Because I never get to I just like, stick it straight in the post the next day. It does mean, though, that when the post office does open, they're going to fucking hate me turning up with 36 boxes or... actually, it won't be 30, because there are 2s occasionally, and some people will be coming to collect them. But it does mean that the postman's going to... post office are going to hate me. Or the person behind me in the queue will. And I know I could, in theory, get them couriered to their destinations. I could get someone to come and collect it from here. I just don't think it's, one, it's expensive, and two, I don't think it's essential for a delivery driver to come to my house, pick up a load of body shells, and then transport them all around the country for them to sit on someone's shelf for another 2 months before we get to do anything. I think I'd rather wait for everything to return to a slight bit of normality. Then there's less chance of stuff going missing, and it's not putting a strain on the system. Super Jock, hello. 60p a parcel from Hermes. Yeah, they might be 60p a parcel, but that's 60p, and you'll never see the parcel ever again. Well, the person at the other end won't. I've lost so much through Hermes. The fact I won't do it anymore. It goes Royal Mail signed for, or it doesn't. Oh, sorry. Hello, John. So this is the thing. I've got so many different people messaging me through different mediums, and I don't know who they are. Oh, 60p for a pickup. Yes, it is 60p for a pickup, but that's no guarantee that it's actually going to get to the other end. So I do need to sit down and work out where I've got to send everything to. But also, it means I haven't been charging people for paint. So I'm like, well, I finished it. I'll charge it when I've got the post, and I haven't bothered posting. So I've got 30 odd shells sitting there, and there've been some people that have very kindly paid, but I haven't really been asking for it. I've got 3 to go to New Zealand, so I've got to work out how much that's going to cost. That'd be interesting. And I wonder how long they'll take to get to New Zealand. Right, still really, this one's just a little bit too wet. But I just don't think it's fair to have all these delivery drivers run ragged for a body shell that's, they're not urgent because we're not allowed to do anything. Once I say it's guidance, isn't it, from BRCA? Because the BRCA can suggest to reopen or suggest to stay shut. It's not really, it's the club. The club have to decide when it's safe, really. Obviously the club will take guidance from the powers that be, but it's for the people at the track to decide when they think that's if the police say, and anything else like that. Hello again, Tony. Woohoo! Tony, you are number 100. So you are the 100th person to message through my restream tonight. So I know it says that on Facebook, it doesn't come up on Facebook, but on this restream thing which I've got here, which apparently Colin has now told me what I've got to do. But when I tried to do it earlier, I just cut the feed off. So I'm going to start again later, and we'll try and work it out without doing too many hand movements. Anyway. But down here, it's now saying to me, congratulations, you've hit 100 streams. 100 messages on the stream. Tony, tonight we are doing 3 shells, all the same, but they're all 3 different body shells. So I've had to draw each one uniquely, because I can't literally just draw one, call it the master shell, and then drop the other 2 over the top and trace it over again. I have to do all 3 uniquely. Yeah, you get a virtual high five. Just clap that. Actually, just do that and punch your screen. really hard. Must be the light. There's a slight fold. Yeah, it turned up in the post like that. I don't get so fussy about those anymore, because once they're painted, you won't really see it. It's where the Lexan's clear at the moment, you can see it a bit sharper. It means the camera's better. So that's not really I would complain if it was on the front grille or bumper section or on a skirt or something, but because it's been sort of half dented halfway up the door, that's never going to get any trouble. It doesn't look particularly pleasant, but you won't see it once it's painted. Thank you, Colin. That makes sense. It's just trying to work out. I was watching a couple of streams on Twitch, and the screens are there's so much going on. Like all these, for starters, they're playing computer games, and they got like a secondary screen of their face. I mean, why do people want to see face of the person that's playing the computer game? Because normally, if it's only like when I used to go-kart, I used to drive with my mouth open all the time because I'm concentrating. Like, So if I'd be playing a computer game, what it would be a really monged picture of my face. So I don't think 2 cameras would be ideal, because I'd have my mask on half the time, and then because when I wear my mask, it gives me all sorts of marks on my face and my nose. Makes me look much prettier. I go to bed at night and I've got like these big ridges up my nose and up the side of my face where the mask's. If I had the mask on for like 6 hours, it kind of takes its toll because you're trying to keep it as tight as possible. So yeah, that would make a really good face on the screen, wouldn't it? If you got my mask face. I could just sort of super glue the camera to my head for a bit. I'd have to remember to turn it off when I go to the loo, though. A hand channel. Yeah, you don't want to see my face. I mean, like, you're just about to see my bald spot like that. I suppose that makes sense. A hand channel. Obviously, if I do that, then you don't really see my hands as much. I just couldn't be asked to stretch forward, so I can move it slightly. I did a little video earlier that I put on Twitch, showing everyone my world shed quarters, showing all the detail of what bits have been gifted to me over the last year or two and how I build it, and giving you a scale of my mini shed next to it to this one. So yeah, because I said I've been given the aircon unit by Mr. Studdy, and Nigel has just come back on again. Nigel come and helped wire it in. Still works, surprisingly. I had to clean the filter out. The filter was a little bit dusty because it's covered in paint. But other than that, it works perfectly. So I got given the aircon unit, which is up there on the wall. I got gifted an old laptop. And then this sponsorship I've got with MHP, I got a race prepared X-ray, which was very nice. Thank you, Jimmy. He's listening or watching. I don't know if he's on tonight. So it has its because someone said to me, they went, well, why are you doing this? All you're doing is giving away all your knowledge. I was like, well, I don't know a lot, so I'm quite safe. And they said to me, well, you're just giving away all the bits you've learned, all your secrets and stuff. And I'm like, Yeah, but there was a time when I was learning and nobody would help. You ask a question and you're lucky. I was a bit different then because obviously you're talking, what, 7 years ago, so Facebook wasn't really what it is now. Yeah, the light box above here, that's what I'm using. That was from oh, no, not this one. Snippy did give me a light box. I haven't actually put that up yet because it's actually, see, that's all my old blades. I use one blade of shell. Yeah, and I only started saving those in the last, well, December, something like that. I can't actually remember when I started saving them. Yeah, Snippy made me 2 light boxes thingies. They're like dinner plates, and they can illuminate the moon. And so I've got, at the moment, I've just got my one square up there, which I think is brighter. I haven't actually got the rest of the lights on in my shed. I don't need to. This one's way bright enough, and I think the brightness is there. Might be a bit different when I get the HD webcam, because it might need a bit more light to it for it to work, because it is a bit dark down here in the corners. So yeah, everyone's been more than generous with the stuff I've been given, donated. I haven't been given any materials as such, so everything I buy is wheeler dealings I've done myself. So it means I can be quite neutral. If I say I like something, I can say I like it, and if I don't like it, I don't have to use it anymore. So it has its advantage. I can be a bit like my racing. I'm independent. I can buy or race what I choose. Well, unless I get given stuff. I haven't been given a car, haven't I? Must admit that was a wicked gesture by Jimmy. That was. We were at the Rugs meeting, the 2-day one, and he walked up to me and he went, "I'm going to give you my X-ray after the last MICC meeting." I was like, my first answer was, "Why?" Then I went, "Thank you." Why? And I only driven it once, which is so frustrating because it was just coming to the end of the indoor season, and I had my automatics pretty dialed, but it was very temperamental. It was an automatics has to be 100% all the time. 90% it's off. An X-ray just works. It works. And I drove it from one meeting at EWS, and normally for me, my fastest heat or lap time is normally in heat 3. And Jimmy had set the car up and given it to me, and he went, "Just put your electrics in." And I put my electrics in and went out on the track, and the only shell I had for it was a twister, which was a little bit aggressive, and I was like, "Blimey, it's understeering on corner exit," and I thought, "Oh, what should I start to change?" And I thought to myself, "No, leave it." And so I left the car and let the carpet get. I mean, if I'd had a DBX, that would have been better because it would have been less aggressive. And as the meeting went on, the car just got faster and faster and faster. I set my fastest lap using the same set of tyres all day in the final. And I've never done that. Say heat 4, for instance, I got into trouble. I ran into the back of 2 people on the exit of a corner because this thing was coming out of the corner like a projectile. You turn in, spring, pop, and it just pops straight back out again. At the other end of with so much corner speed, it was insane. It was just frustrating. "Oh, you just hit me." I was like, "Well, no, I've sat behind you for 4 laps, and I've come out the corner and just hit you. I didn't mean to." Got me into a very awkward conversation. Twice. One time I went up the back of somebody and ruined my run and his And I went up to him, I went, "Oh, I'm sorry, I obviously didn't mean to hit you." And he went, "Oh, it's okay, I probably should have let you through." I was like, ugh. But I shouldn't have hit him. But I didn't mean to, it was just the way the car was. And so it was like, I was so looking forward to the last meeting at Rug Races, and they all got called off. So I've got the car sitting in the same spec as I finished EWS, so the same set of tyres still on it, and it's just sitting there waiting. And I've got a carbon chassis to convert it to tarmac, and I don't want to convert it. I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to hope, but I don't think we're going to get much outdoors. So I don't know if I should just leave it alone and then bring it back out again for next winter. I should really take it all apart and measure it and then write it all down. But I don't want to touch it. Just because I don't want to... I've got the... See, I have the time, I don't have the time. Because this batch will make 37 shells I've done in lockdown, while I've been helping co-parent my 2 kids, and going to work, and doing odd jobs around the garden, and life in general. So, I must admit, I do thoroughly enjoy coming on here and talking utter bollocks, and trying to help people improve. Basically, just tell people what I've done and what I think's actually worked and what's improved me. I can sort of talk from my experience, and if someone asks me a question and I don't know the answer, I'm not going to try and bullshit my way through it. I'm just going to say, I'm sorry, I haven't done that yet, or I don't do that. It was like this afternoon I was asked about not iridescence, translucent colours. Is it translucence? Yeah, it was. And I said, look, I don't, but I found him a video and what to watch, and said, I recommend that. I do need to sit and learn these things. I kind of try and work my way through problems and then look up online and see how proper people get around them. So I do because I'm a bit dyslexic. I do sort of reverse engineer stuff. I try and work out how to do it after I've got a problem. But I'm not doing a secondary pinstripe on the types shells. Well, not yet. I'm not. I'm deciding I'm not going to. I might change my mind, but it's not enough material. Let's do it on the outside. Never think about it. I've got to work it out. Because the types only has a very thin bottom window frame lip. It will look odd if I try and do a double pinstripe on it. I suppose in theory I could just do the down and then across and not bother with the bottom. That's very healthy. I've got 8 people watching me on Facebook. If you haven't said hello already, say hello for me, please, so I can get a rough idea of where. I've got someone watching from Australia. I've had someone on from South Africa. It's brilliant. Everyone that's got nothing, there's nothing to do racing-wise, so all of a sudden I've become a bit more entertaining to watch. Well, there is such a thing. Just to make sure I don't say anything stupid. Well, stupidish. Anything I do say is completely my opinion, my view. Doesn't mean it's right. but it just means I haven't got someone. There's no sponsorship on my thingy, whatever this is called. It's just me talking. Ah, Wiltshire. I know Wiltshire well. Well, my uncle lives in Wiltshire. So you must be very close to the Cotswolds track. Oh, very lucky. So I'm going to try and say your name now. Is it Aaron? Is it pronounced like Aaron? So I'm in Kent. I'll say that carefully. So I'm 15 miles from central London, and I'm on the River Thames in a town called Gravesend. Oh, actually got a pronunciation right. That's good. Normally, I completely offend anyone when I try and say their names, and I'm not have a clue what I'm talking about. Oh, I know Croydon. Croydon's not far. We got away then. Well done. You must have gone to Sidcup. I definitely have noticed an improvement in the amount of people watching, because everyone's struggling for things to. You can watch old videos of meetings and stuff like that, but there's not really a lot to do. Yes, I miss the racing, but I think I miss the interaction with my friends as well. Granted, it's not too dissimilar to normal, because racing friends live so far and wide. You only really see each other at meetings, so you spend a lot of time talking online. So, in that respect, it's not too dissimilar to normal. You're just waiting for a big meeting to come along. But we just haven't had a meeting in ages. Well, if they're useful, then brilliant. That makes at least I know that I'm of use. If nothing else, it's what not to do. Tim, are you talking about your new F1 shell? F1 car, even? I mean, you rebuilt it 6 times and not even run it yet. I mean, that's almost like a normal meeting, isn't it? Like with the crash damage. So I have an old X-ray T3, which I bought it second hand a little bit before lockdown, with the intention of it being my wet car for this summer. So having moved from automatics back to X-ray, I thought it makes sense to have the same both brand for both cars, and all I've done is change the bearing kit on it. I've not even really taken it apart. And all my wet electrics that normally run in my wet car, I've stuck into a Tamiya TT02, and I enjoyed building that for a day. I say build it; it's a push and fit, isn't it? Really, it's not really much building. So I put that together, and I run that round the lawn twice. I'm going to get my kids to use it more than me. I'm actually quite shocked at how good it is, but it's got the ride height's not what I hoped for. Because you can't really drive it anywhere without keeping the lawn really low. But it means that I've got a good purpose for my wet electrics. So I will be online tomorrow night, and I promise I'll be actually physically painting, because I'll have finished cutting these out. If anything I've learned is, if I'm not really in the mood to paint, is not to. Same with work as well. If I don't really want to work, I don't, which is quite a lot at the moment. That's a joke. So I'll be back on tomorrow to actually paint these. But I thought I would just show you the process of what goes into sort of prepping these for. Sorry, not even on camera. For not before I can't speak. Before I even get to the painting stage, what I have to do to get it to. When someone says, "Oh, how long did that take you to do?" and you go, "Oh, 7 hours," they just look at you like your chinny Renok, doing a chinny recon, and you're like, "No, it's honest." People say like, "Oh, it doesn't take an hour to cut the mask out." Well, it does. And if you're not on the ball, it can look shit. So I might do the checkered flag while I'm here. Checkered flag I find is really, really easy and looks wicked. You just need a good pair of tweezers. And it's a case of just keeping it uniform. So do a swirly line down the centre, not too swirly, and then just run off of it by 20 mil either side, and just keep doing it so that it looks like it's flowing in the breeze. And then the same the other way, so the horizontal and the vertical. And then really make a point of writing what colour it should be, so that when you pick it out, you pick out the right ones. No, Super Jock, as in John. Don't. You just literally you draw your line down the centre, squirly, and then just go right one the same a bit further over that way, and then just make sure they even out, and then they're meant to look a little bit wiggly woo. They're supposed to be blowing in the wind, aren't they? They're not supposed to look too polished. How do you print that one off of Google anyway? That just strikes me as a ton of work. You just go, "Oh, I'm just going to draw that, done." Go on then, John. How long does it take you to prep if you were doing that, how long would that take you to draw, cut, and ready for paint? It always interests me what other painters say. All the customers are interested about is how much money it's going to cost. They're not really bothered about the amount of effort that's gone into it. They just want it where they don't think they're being ripped off. Just a little bit, which I understand because I am also a customer as well of certain products. But I think this is such a unique thing, it needs time spent on it to make it look right. No, it actually cuts nicer when it's slightly damp. But then again, it's all a very personal thing. I completely get that. As I said, this is just my way of doing things, and it's the way I've learned or figured out, but it's my way. I have said, I don't know if I said on the feed the other night. I have my job. I'm a picture framer. I work in my family shop, and we sell art materials. So all week I'm selling art materials, sort of airbrushes and stuff, and good customer stroke friend of mine, who I consider to be a proper artist. I sort of done a deal with him, and he's going to teach me to spray a crash helmet or show me the process. But I was very specific in what I said. I said I want to learn in my own studio in the World Shed Quarters. So on my own tools, my own lights. So he's going to come here and teach me how to. I won't do it on live stream that night, obviously. But it means I'm going to finally learn how to paint a crash helmet, which I really wanted to do. Because obviously the way we've learnt with these, it's backwards, isn't it? I mean, if you told me to paint this on the outside, I wouldn't have a clue. It doesn't make sense to me at all. It's like when you paint the way we do, which is the proper way, it's the darkest to lightest shades. Well, I think with a crash helmet, it's the other way round. I think I don't understand the process, because like we mask up and then you paint and peel. So you paint, you peel, you paint the darkest shades, then the bright, and then the blah, 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 and wait. So if you do it the other way round, do you spray all the lightest? You spray the lightest colour first, so like the white, then the luminous yellow. Then do you put mask over it? I don't understand it just doesn't compute at all. And everyone I speak to that I do these, they're like, they've got no comprehension on how to do it. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know how to do your way. So it's something I'm definitely looking forward to learning. I just decided, I'm like, well, bollocks to it. There's something I'd like to learn after this lockdown's finished. Yeah, but that seems like, Colin, that seems completely odd to mask up after you've painted, because the mask might pull up the paint. So you'd put your shell down, and you'd key it all up. Sorry, crash helmet. You'd key it all up, ready to go, and then you spray your luminous yellow, and then so that's going to be your pinstripe. So then you put tape what you want to be pinstripe over the yellow, and then go to your next colour, don't you? Well, it's sold in my solder stations. No, I haven't seen your solder. No, I did see it. Yeah, because you put up some pictures, didn't you, the other day? Yeah, I did see that. I don't think I was really realising what I was looking at. I'll have to look back at that. You can't put it on a picture here, can you? I don't know if you can put pictures in the messages on this. I know you can't on Facebook. Sorry, Facebook, I'm talking on Twitch. Yeah, I'll have a look. Is that kind of like... Yeah. I know that K-Paint, a good friend of mine, has just done his eye charger. And I was like, oh, when I get time, I'd love to do my eye charger. What I'd love to do is I'd love to do my handset. So I'd like to... That's not the right cut. Let's do that again. I'd like to... let's put a cross. I always put a cross when I do a screw up. That way, then I know when I come back to it, I've got to be careful where I peel there. I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? No, memory's gone. What was I just talking about? I've forgotten. I went, oh, shiny, and stopped. I think it's really important, but I can't remember. Helmets, don't be rude. Also, well, I'm putting this over a dark space so I can see where, because I've got the light above me and a dark space beneath, all the cut lines show up. Normally where I'd be like that in front of the light. Now I've got the light above me, I'm looking at it through, it's actually quite clear. I'm just making sure I don't cut through that slight fold mark in the body shell from where it's been posted. business. So I would love to paint a crash helmet. I've just got to figure out the process. It just doesn't, as I said, it doesn't compute with me at the moment. And my friend, who's the proper artist, he said he could do the lacquering as well and stuff like that for me. And I was like, well, I kind of want to learn how to do that myself then at some point. But I'm quite happy to take advice. He thinks I need it. That's fine. There's no point asking these people if you're just going to ignore what they say. Oh, that was a nice point I cut then. It's satisfying when you can see a nice cut. Oh, that's going to look nice when it's painted. And that was a really nice swoop to the cut. Oh, and that one. That's two. That's two I've done in. I don't think it shows up. That I've got a point. So this point here. I've got a bigger swoop and then a lower swoop, and the lower swoop on this side is nice. I like it. Right, I'm gonna definitely give up after this one's been cut, which I think I'm nearly there. I see Facebook's dropped off now. The numbers are dropped. Well, I can take a hint. No, as far as my mate does it in his back, he does it in his back garden because he does mostly does crash. He does crash helmets as a professional job, so he does all the biker crash helmets and fuel tanks and stuff. And he's got himself a little set up, and he said he'll take it away and do it for me. Yeah, I think lacquer might be a little bit too much. Well, he told me it will be. So I was watching one of these YouTube videos of. I'm very new to YouTube. I've only been on YouTube for a few months because I like to watch it in my shed. Well, listen to it in my shed because I listen to all the music sets. And I've only just started really watching YouTube, and I now watch more YouTube than I do TV. And there's one of the famous F1 crash helmet painters who does all of the stuff for Sebastian Vettel, and they had well, actually, there wasn't Sebastian's. It was Michael Schumacher's crash helmet, and they were showing how they did Schumacher's gold spec crash helmet he had to commemorate a special race. And I watched it, and I was like, it's just putting down loads of little masking things, and then spray it over it and pull it off and move to the next bit. I was actually quite intrigued at how easy it was. Though I shouldn't say it's easy because that's asking for trouble. Because I remember when I first started doing this, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be really straightforward and really easy," and it's not. And I mean that's the reason I've been so stubborn with it, and I've figured out how to do it because I want to get better at this because I enjoy it, and it gives me um, a use in the pits, if that makes sense. It makes me useful because I'm not very good at soldering. I'm not very good at software and stuff like that. I know, I'll watch paint dry. And that's my little angle. And there's not many people that do it. So it's my way of making myself useful on a very limited skill set. And you can't please everybody. But all I'm personally after is paint respect. I think that's the word. Not drop to your knees and all hail, it's Basil. But, oh look, it's Basil. People don't know me by my proper name now, which is quite cool. And in fact, I answer to it as well. I did have a little cat called Basil, but unfortunately he got run over. And I was saying to my wife as I was burying him, I was like, maybe I should change my paint name because I don't really think it's... And she went, you can't change your name. One, it's not fair on the cat. And two, you've built up your name and people just won't call you anything else. I was crying at the time I was burying the cat. It was only a young thing, stupid cat. Do you know what, John? I've had a couple of people say that to me. That they say I make it look relatively straightforward. Well, that's a compliment, isn't it? Because I've kind of figured it. I know what knife pressure and I'd say straightforward. I'm not going to say easy because that's not the term. It's not fair. You've got to remember also this is kind of my hobby, so I enjoy doing this. So I do find that if there's a lot of stress going on, give me a craft knife and a shell and a mask and a design to draw, and there's me out of my headspace for 4 hours, and I quite enjoy it. I do find it very therapeutic. Just whack the radio on, and all you're thinking about is where the knife's going. I think it's definitely it suits some people, and I'm one of them. But then I also find that this live streaming thing, I don't know what's going to come of this. But because I think normality comes back when we come out of lockdown, and I don't think anyone's going to really watch anymore. But it has gained quite a reasonable following. I'm really quite chuffed because I like talking. It has helped. I mean, I come out in the shed to do this, and it does give me like someone to talk to. Because this is quite a solitary hobby, and I'm not a very solitary person. I like to talk. Although you put me on the phone, I can't stand it. So it is a very odd. Thing is, my humour sometimes gets me into trouble. Well, it did in the past. So I've got to be careful not to be too silly. I have a very dry sense of humour, hence why I had three broken noses as a kid. Sort of engaged brain before I realise what's going on, and then I've been thumped in the face. John, how many shells do you reckon you've done this year? Do you keep a running tally? I keep a running book now of what I've done. And I do think the more you practice, the easier this gets. Like when I cut out now, when I haven't got my rubber gloves on, I find it way easier without the gloves on. I find the gloves quite restrictive. But where the liquid mask is a little bit tacky at the moment, I would keep the gloves on. So this is a pair I've upcycled. I used these the other day. So they've lost a little bit of their stretch, so they are actually quite comfortable to wear. Dirty though, that's still a good number. How many do you reckon you do in a week? I don't know why I say that, because I actually don't have any numbers to offset that. Right, I have to finish off my front grille, so I'm going to show you how I eyeball this. Yeah, if I was to put a number out, I said I could probably easily do 6. So what I do is I don't do a continual line. I draw to points. So that's going to come down to about there to match that. It's just about getting the balance right. No, actually, it's a bit higher than that. It's about there. And that's about the right height. And then that comes back to there. And then that's down in the back. So down in the back. So about there. So then I'm going to draw up to that. and then up to there. And I used to draw actually to the splitter base and cut to the base, but now I won't. I always come up like 3mm, because that bendy point, you don't really want to be putting a cut line on that lip. So I come up a couple of mil so that it's not on there. So it's sod's law now, because this has had a bit of liquid mask on the permanent marker sticking to it. I find this an absolute bugger, these protoforms. Right, and then we're going to go have an air box either side. So we're going to go like that. And then match it. Lollipop sticks work very good as rubbers for permanent marker. There you go, there's a top tip. And what I use the most, see, I'm a profession as a picture framer. So there's a mount card. So the inside of a picture frame, you have an inlay which is like 3mm thick board. Well, I cut those into triangles and use those, and I have them like as a pencil rubber. So if you see any of my pictures of like yesterday, I put the picture of the 3 shells up, and there'd be my permanent marker, and then there'd be a little triangle next to it, and that's basically my rubber. It's basically, I find that it's really odd, but paper rubs off permanent marker really easy. So like the paper that's wrapped around your blades, that works really well as well. Rather than sort of getting out a tissue and some glue or some cleaner, you just get the nice sharp point of the lollipop stick or a bit of mount board, and it just means you can draw a thick line and then put a point on it. But it's a case of most of the time, it's just when you draw, just have your pinky, so you pivot off your finger, and so you're not putting all the pressure. It's a bit like cutting. You're not putting all the pressure through the pen tip, and you can draw much easier. See, I don't really want to show the drawing process, because basically it's me with a going, oh, I don't like that, oh, I don't like that, oh, I don't like that, oh, that looks all right, oh, and then it's trying to get it from one side to the other. You see where this one, the permanent marker doesn't want to stick. It drives me nuts. On these ones, these Type S's, you can ruin your blade, ruin your pen straight, really easy. Right, Ashley, you're not in bed yet? Right, so all I'll do is cut out the lights for this one, and then I'm done. So all I do is I cut from a point to a point, point to a point, and then just work my way around, so I don't put too many cuts. And it's literally knife on the liquid mask and just dragging it. You'll learn the resistance that the blade gives you, especially with a new one. Done. Just get yourself an old lollipop stick. Have the fun of having a lollipop to start with, but it's just a case of you just pick a point and it just rubs away. Makes life a lot easier. And you just treat it like another. It's another medium, isn't it? It's like a rubber. I mean, you wear rubber gloves. I mean, they don't really. It doesn't come off very easily at all. Whereas you do this, and it's like off. Right. So that just leaves me the bitty shell to do, and that's 11 o'clock. So I'm going to do this one tomorrow. So thank you all for watching. I mean, it's down to 2 on Facebook, and one of them's me, so it's not that many people watching on that. So hopefully the Twitch and the YouTube have picked up a little bit. I'll be back on to annoy you all tomorrow evening. So thank you very much for watching. Good morning, good evening, good night.